Things to cancel. Cyber insurance, J.K. Rowling, Jimmy Kimmel, Disney Plus subscription. Hello, just leaks and rusts.
Call the cyber insurance.
What do you mean call the cyber insurance? I've cancelled it.
What? Why?
You told me to save money.
I didn't tell you to cut the cyber insurance.
Today we're talking about the Jaguar Land Rover Cyberattack.
It's great fun, just not for them.
What's happened at Jaguar Land Rover, Alex?
That's a great question. Whilst we're not yet too sure if it's ransomware or exactly what's going on, they've certainly been down, and they switched all their systems off right at the beginning of September. So we're coming on a month now of complete downtime. So if it's not ransomware, I'd be very much interested in knowing what it is that's going on that has caused them to, panically and pull the plug. Timelines, I said it's about a month long. Found a detector beginning September, turned everything off. They've been given out several updates. They've engaged a cybersecurity specialist. They've engaged assistants. They've contacted, the ICO, the government, everybody they need to be talking to, and they've said, "Oh, we're talking to them." Not much else. They've extended their estimated deadline several times to the point where yesterday they extended it again by another week to the 1st of October. And then later on in the day, also then posted, but we now have partial systems back up and running, which appears to be mostly their financial systems. This isn't even their first breach this year. They were hit with a data breach, lost about 350 gig of data over two separate incidents based off of the same info stealer campaign that seemed to have run kind of 2018 through to 2021, 2022-ish. The fact that the creds were still valid for that in 2025, earlier this year, might not have anything to do with this most recent breach, but it certainly points them out maybe as a bit of a soft target, if nothing else.
How long ago was that?
So the data leaks earlier this year, March time.
And those creds are still valid? Or were still valid?
Were still valid at that time, yeah.
Wow.
So it's concerning, like real basic cyber hygiene that,
Yeah. But this tool will solve that problem. Just try and get the basics right.
Exactly. You get your basics wrong and you're all over there. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's exactly what's happened again. With the threat group that's taking credit for this so far is Scattered Lapsus Hunters. What a wonderfully fun name.
Shiny Spider.
Shiny Spider. Yeah, like Shiny Lapsus Spider, whatever. Basically, three groups all kind of from a similar background that are all known to interact with the COM, which is like an underground big communications hub, kind of merged together, and they're claiming credit for this. They like doing phishing, vishing, social engineering, like really heavily is right up their park. They're also the ones that have been attributed for the co-op hack, the M&S hack. Kind of lines up that they'd go after Jaguar Land Rover. They've been hitting big UK retail, big UK industry, seems to be in their MO. And if they were a soft target, because, they've been hit earlier this year already, makes sense that they'd look at that as well.
And do you think there's any correlation with, I think some of those other breaches you mentioned, like M&S, might have been to do with TCS, Tata Consulting Services?
I wouldn't be surprised. It's not as if, there's shared ownership there or anything. With Jaguar Land Rover being owned by Tata themselves, whoever could have guessed. I wonder if there might be some form of internal, what's the word I'm looking for? Encouragement? No, that's not the right word. I've generally lost the word. But anyway, you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Internal pressure to use other,
he's one of our friends.
Companies. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So wouldn't be surprised. And it means they've probably been cracked wide open using the same set of techniques. And they are real good at doing the social engineering, it seems.
I know, obviously, this is only speculation, but why is it taking so long for them to get back up and running?
Several different options there, really. Is it that they don't want to pay the ransom and it's taking them forever to stand infrastructure back up in a clean state after recovering? Is it their recovery got knocked out? Is it that they've been, dragging their heels trying to just negotiate a ransom down and then finally gave up and paid the ransom? Or any combination of the above, really? We don't have much insight. But you'd think if they had their whole house in order with good backups in place that are immutable and air-gapped and not really attackable, that they would have had, something up by now. Like even M&S, they were down for a big chunk of time, But, by a month in, they had multiple systems already back up and running and fully functional. Whereas, yesterday was the first day they had anything back up and running full stop, and we're over a month in. So, again, that kind of points to they didn't necessarily have the best backup or recovery because, should have been quicker otherwise, right?
Yeah, and I think I saw, and again, you kind of have to take some of this stuff sometimes with a bit of a pinch of salt, but I saw something about an insurance renewal. Is that something you've come across in your research?
Yeah. So the Insurer, which is a publication, weirdly enough, focusing on insurance.
You'd never have guessed.
Never would have guessed, right? So they apparently had an inside informant somewhere and saying that Jaguar Land Rover were not currently undercover with a cybersecurity insurance policy. Cybersecurity insurance policy, there we go, I can words, at the time of the attack. Now, whether that means that they were, they let their previous policy lapse and they just hadn't got around to, as most of the reporting seems to be finalising on a new one. If that's the case, that seems like a bit of a serious misstep on the business and policy front, right? If you haven't got a new one lined up, you just renew the existing. Keep yourself covered, right?
I suppose it's one of them, right? That comes back to doing the basics right.
Yeah.
We talk about, all the time in terms of doing the basics right, getting the foundations right. I think that's symptomatic of a lot of big organizations is failing to do that. Chasing the new shiny technology thing instead of doing the hard work at the lower end of the scale.
Yeah, because why do we need to get rid of these 2008 servers? They're fine, they work.
Yeah.
And they're on the internet.
Yeah. And I think I suppose they've probably got the challenges of being in manufacturing, so like the IT/OT overlay.
Yeah. Big
and having
headache.
to sort of manage that from manage and apply zero trust principles into a network like that, which is probably very difficult because those machines that you buy, they ship with an XP machine.
Oh yeah.
And that machine has to last you 20 years.
Oh yeah.
And the vendor says the software won't work on anything other than XP. So now you've got to handle all that.
And of course, God forbid these massive OT hardware and manufacturing vendors actually, provide software updates to run these old systems.
Why would you when that piece of machinery is still printing money for you?
I know, right? It's it's fine. It's good.
Yep.
We're making money in maintenance and parts and God knows what else.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be great if they did, but, well, they don't.
Yeah. What can organizations do today to protect themselves from attacks such as this one?
Well, I think we've said it multiple times already, right?
Yeah.
Basics. So we had a video a little while ago. I talked about Scattered Spider, one of the threat groups that's part of the new conglomerate that has claimed attribution. One of the things I talked about there is, social engineering's big. They like to come in and trick your help desk into giving away password resets or full fat authentication. So even resetting your MFA to their guys. So authorization procedures and policy for that. Then other simple things like, was your EDR everywhere? Is your OT network that is running these ancient old XP machines and similar, is that actually on a separate physical network to your primary network? Because if it isn't, you've that's a pretty big mistake, right?
Yeah. Yep.
It's basics. It is hard. You've got to patch stuff every week, not once a month. And if it fails, that's got to wait till the window next month.
Yep.
The attackers these days are going, there's a patch available for Windows Server 2025 September security update. That comes out, it's released. As soon as that patch is available, there's bad guys reverse engineering, discovering the vulnerability, and then probably starting to exploit that within days now. So it's even to the point where patching every week might not be enough, but even getting to that weekly cadence is so hard for so many people. And then maintaining it, because it's not as if it slows down, it's a constant march forwards. You can't slow down, you can't fall back, because as soon as you do, you start building technical debt. And that, again, leads to failing the basics.
Do you think that in the modern cybersecurity landscape, lots of organizations believe they can outsource responsibility to a piece of technology?
Yeah, I think that's a big one. And sure, you've got the likes of the CrowdStrikes, you've got SentinelOnes, the Sophoses, they're great, but unless you've got somebody actually looking after it, making sure it's deployed properly, making sure the policies are configured correctly for your environment, looking after it, it's not a silver bullet. Nothing is. Anybody tells you it's a silver bullet, they're wrong. security is a constant proactive journey, right? And as soon as you pause, you'll start to stagnate. And, you'll suddenly realize, oh, my authentication policies are out of date because you haven't looked at them in 5 years and you're still using a standard username and password for external auth. And it's like, oh dear.
Yeah, it's that what we always talk about, is that compound effects of small matters.
Yeah.
It's not silver, it's a whole lot of lead. There's lots of things you have to go and fix.
Oh yeah.
And and I think too much of what we see on a regular basis is, and clearly I think the market is generally, there's a lot of big organizations doing this. And obviously it's all speculation, but this preference to invest in technology to solve a problem rather than understanding it's a journey you have to go on across multiple facets.
Yeah, 100%. Ripping stuff down, figuring out what the actual problems are, and then going after them from a security front. It's important as anything else. Like, you can always come back to that little XKCD comic, right? About software dependencies. You can keep layering your shiny stuff on top. But, there's that one little bit down here, and, somebody flicks that and the whole tower comes crumbling down.
Yeah, absolutely. So just lastly, obviously, JLR are enormous, and I suppose there's huge ramifications not only for them, but for their suppliers. And we've seen some bits in the news around the government stepping in. Like, what have you come across for that?
Yes, what that came from, and obviously JLR, they're huge, as you said, roughly 200,000 jobs in the UK, and that's just them. That's not their supply chain. There are several businesses out there, they make this one part for the Land Rover. That's all they do, and all of Jaguar Land Rover's UK-based supply chains all just in time. So they place an order, it gets built and shipped to them like ASAP, right? That's obviously great if everything's running smoothly, but as soon as one part of the supply chain falls down, everything does. So you've got this swathe of small businesses all over the place that are now struggling because they're not receiving orders, so they're not sending invoices, so they're not getting paid, so they're not being able to pay their employers or their suppliers, and it propagates outwards from there. So I think it was a councillor from, I've forgotten the county now. That's great on me. But it's where the largest Jaguar Land Rover factory is based. He was calling on central government, on the main UK government, to perhaps endorse a furlough-style scheme or provide some taxpayer money to bail Jaguar Land Rover out, or more precisely to maybe bail out the other companies that are now suffering because Jaguar Land Rover haven't been paying, right?
Yeah, I'd heard about them stepping in to buy parts.
Yeah, that was one of them. So the scheme there was, the idea was to buy parts at a slightly lower rate from all of their suppliers to basically build a backlog, which is keeping those suppliers going and then selling those parts back once Jaguar Land Rover is back up and running onwards to Jaguar Land Rover themselves. Which kind of makes sense, but also I'm just saying that as kicking the can down the road, because what happens when you suddenly flood effectively the market for these parts? The companies that have sold them to you originally are going to suffer again anyway, right?
Yeah,
so,
I mean, that production line has a finite output, right?
Oh yeah.
If you stop the output, you stop the requirement for parts. So therefore, you could argue that they don't need the parts in the short term if that line isn't running, probably.
Exactly. So the parts that would be bought aren't getting used. But hopefully, not sure that's going to be needed now. As I said, they got some systems back up and running yesterday, and it seems what they were focused on is their finance systems. So they're working on payment backlogs, getting payments out to their suppliers, which will hopefully keep that supply chain alive. Because, I mean, if I'm Jaguar Land Rover and I'm going, if these three companies that make these parts that I have to build my car go under and don't make those parts anymore, I can't build my car.
Yeah.
So,
exactly. Yeah, that matters.
That matters hugely. So hopefully they're looking to look after their supply chain a bit, and we'll have to just stay tuned to find out how it goes, right?